Hello and welcome to Garblag Games. I'm back after 2 weeks away, back in the shed with all my lovely streaming challenges. So hopefully you enjoyed our little video there. That was fun making that, but yeah. Cool, okay. Tonight Ben has joined me.
Chin chin.
Yes. Yes, cheers. For some drunken for some world building. Recently got my hands on the free PDF copy of Worlds Without Number, which you can see on the screen here. And I was quite inspired, and one night after one of our late night streams, I decided it was a good idea to drop some cash on the pod print on demand copy. So here is the book itself.
It's no Zweihander, but
it's no Zweihander.
it'd take a couple of blows to take someone out with rather than just a single strike.
I think so. It's a good book. It's a good print on demand, just to let you guys know. It's good quality paper and a very good print. So I recommend it from a quality perspective, quality of print perspective. And tonight we're going to talk a bit about Worlds Without Number. We're not experts on Worlds Without Number, but I have been reading it a bit over the last week or two to get familiar with it and to kind of understand what it is and to do a bit of world building. And you can see that on the screen I have got some stuff going on. So Ben has kindly agreed to come and help me, quiz me, poke and prod me about a setting that I have created, which I'll talk about in a bit, and to use Worlds Without Number to flesh out some of it. And we're gonna give this a bit of a go. Now this is from Kevin Crawford, who did Stars Without Number and Godbound and various other games, which you can find on DriveThruRPG through our affiliate link, which I think I've set up as a thing, but I'm not sure. So you can get this for free, and I wanted to show you guys the free version in the stream. I do have the full version. The free version covers all of the main rules, so it shows you how to play Worlds Without Number if you want to play it as the RPG. And then there is a whole load of world building tools, which, yeah, sorry Ben, I don't think I have set it up, which is what we're interested in, and what we're kind of getting into tonight. So Worlds Without Number is an OSR game, and lots of people say, what is OSR? And that's a very good question, and I'm not going to try and define it.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, that. Once you start getting into exactly what is and isn't OSR, that itself is a whole show's worth of argument. You need to pull in a whole panel of experts for that, wouldn't you, really?
We would. We'd have to do a whole separate stream, really, about that, and get people like Sophinio and others to jump in to give us their opinions on OSR games like Pariah, for example.
I've heard that's an OSR game.
I've heard that's an OSR game.
I think we know someone who knows the author.
Yeah.
Pariah is also available on DriveThruRPG through our affiliate link.
It is. It's a cracking little game. What was I saying? Okay, so OSR, the old school Renaissance or Revival, depending on who you talk to, is all about getting back to an kind of a play style, really. That's the essence of it, from the late 70s, early 80s, back with the original versions of Dungeons & Dragons and other games at the time. So retro clones and streamlining of older games, a lot of them. The acronym Old School Revival or Old School Renaissance, OSRs. It's either of those, depending on who you talk to.
I think we'll go with Renaissance because it sounds so much more cultured.
I don't know, Revival sounds like they've brought it back from the dead. It's like it's alive.
True. You've got a lot more of a sort of a revival church feel then, though, haven't you?
Oh, true. Um, yeah, and a lot of these games are based on Dungeons and Dragons. Not all of them are, but a lot of them are.
That's the
And
OSR right there, though, isn't it? We both just immediately disagreed on what the R should be for. Perfect. Sums it up to a T.
isn't it
There's some brilliant
open
little games in there.
source
Electric Bastion
routing?
Land is OSR,
Yes.
but has a really, really streamlined system. A lot of people assume that OSR means immediately overcrunching your system and making it really complicated, but it does not.
Does not. In fact, OSR is about rulings rather than rules. So they keep things light, so it's like a framework, so that the people at the table can make decisions about how their game works. And a lot of OSR experiences often involve homebrew in terms of rules and worlds. But there are lots of worlds. One might say, anyway. So Worlds Without Number. We're not going to go massively into the role-playing game of Worlds Without Number because it is a role-playing game. But there's a lot more in here in this book dedicated to world building that we want to use and get into. And hearing about Stars Without Number from Millie and other people on the channel, and the things around faction turns, which I kind of bastardized into my traveller experience meta thing. I'm really looking forward to this. I wanted to get back into some fantasy, something a bit more old school. I thought it was, something we could do on the channel, so I thought we should have a little look. So very, very quickly, Worlds Without Number, which I'm going to rattle through the free version here, so hopefully not doing anything naughty. What I would like to draw your attention to is the names of the artists down at the bottom, because they did all that lovely art that was in the video that was playing before we started. So thank you very much. And that artwork has been given out on Drive-Thru RPG for free, so people can use it at their table or in streams and those kinds of things, as long as you attribute the interior art, which is down here in the book. And there is a big feel of there was once ancient kingdoms, this is now a ruined world. It's like the dying earth, far future, Thundar the Barbarian, Terry Brooks, all of those kinds of influences. It's that kind of feel of what this fantasy world is. It's the remnant of something else. So the latter Earth is the setting that's loosely given in this book for people to use. And how does this game play? Talks about the roots of the game, the fact that it's a sandbox style of campaign rather than something with a specific goal that then players have to sort of work their way to. The intention is that a lot of this experience is about building a little sandbox for them to adventure around in, and all the time the GM is trying to fulfill the desires of the players. So the players are saying, oh, we want to go over there next session, so the GM knows what to prepare. And there's kind of a loose framework with some detailed areas that give the players just enough information that they need, not too much prep for the GM, to build this kind of structure through which players will adventure and kind of go on their merry way and explore all kinds of weird and odd places and bump into random monsters and all other things.
Kind of a top-down world building thing, isn't it, really? Because you start off with this big picture of this is the world, and then you start by zooming into a smaller region, then a smaller kingdom, and then a town, and so on, right the way down to individual single rooms.
Yes. Yep. And we'll do a bit, and we'll see how it goes, and we'll go a couple of hours, and then we'll stop, and we'll see if we need to do another session next week. So this is kind of free flow. We haven't really planned this that much. We just wanted to kind of have a look at this and see how it works. It's some interesting I don't know, the way Kevin Crawford puts some of his thoughts can come off quite dismissive. Don't worry about that. That's flights of fancy. You want to be doing this, and you only need to think about this and stuff like that. But it's good because he talks about GMs often getting carried away and sort of going off. I
feel personally offended.
yeah. And
like, why do you come for me like this?
When we get to the world building bit, it's like, oh, drawing a map of your whole world is just like stupid. You're never going to use that. Who cares about the coastline of that far island? It makes no difference to your players.
Clearly, he's never met our players.
yeah. So I'm just going to whiz through character creation very quickly, just literally flash through and show you all the bits. So character creation is, here's a quick summary. You roll your 6 attributes. You might recognize the 6 attributes: strength, dex, con, intelligence, wisdom, charisma. 3d6 6 times, aside them in order, or use an array. Or I think it says some generous GMs might let you roll other things. Pick a back. I know.
So
well,
tight.
the modifiers are different than 5th edition D&D, but it is at the heart. It's got Dungeons and Dragons in there. You know, you've got classes, you've got levels, you've got base attack bonus. If anything, it's kind of a 3.0 tangent for some of it. The saves are recognizable from 3.0. Base attack
we have the same
bonus.
thing with character building for the Expanse game for next Monday. That's
we're having an
3d6.
Expanse game next Monday.
Yeah, I don't know if it's come up at all recently. But yeah, that's 3d6, place where you want.
Okay.
So at least there's that.
Yeah. Well, in this, 8 to 13 is no modifier. 14 to 17 is a +1, and 18 is +2.
Okay, so that's much reduced modifier range.
Absolutely. And again, that's a bit more old school. So you pick a class, you pick a background, you pick some foci, and which are like talents or feats, that kind of thing. And then there's a few skills that you can pick. You figure out your hit points. If you've got any spells, good to go. And the character sheet is fairly familiar with things like armor class, hit points, strength, all those things. Skills are slightly different. They're a bit like traveler skills, where you can get a skill at 0 to begin with it. You don't have a penalty. And then it goes up in 1 to 5, I think it is. And a 2 is like super competent, and a 5 is I'm the best at this on this world kind of thing.
So what's the deal with Magic then? Because at a lot of OSR games, one of the big gripes that a lot of people have with OSR games is that they tend to be quite restrictive on Magic, much like original D&D and AD&D, where they were both very, very tight on the Magic. You were a wizard, you were almost entirely useless 5 minutes into your first session. You fired off your spell of the day, and that was it. You're out, mate. Go and sit over there, let your familiar do the fighting.
Well, there are... Let's go to the mage, shall we? I'm just going to skill at level 4. You're one of the best in the world, able to push the skill to its physical limits. This kind of thing. Where it differs slightly is skill checks are done with 2d6, and you have to roll under a certain attribute score. Skill check 2d6. If the total is equal or higher than the check's difficulty, the attempt to success. Sorry, not the attribute score. You add your attribute modifier and your skill level to your 2d6 roll, and there's a difficulty level that you have to exceed. And there's various things with exertion and all kinds of stuff that come in, and skills have got fairly generic sounding names to them, or slightly abstract ones like connect, instead of...
Can you have that skill at level 4?
I didn't. Oh, that's genius, Ben. Connect 4, fantastic, so good. I mean, I don't like the fact that the melee weapon fighting skill is called stab. It just feels that's just a bit weird. There's a skill called magic. Cast or analyze magic.
Can you stab someone with a mace? That is the question.
You can stab someone with a mace or a hurled weapon. And shoot is the ranged weapon. I think there's a bit here of crossover with stars without number. I'm not sure.
Quite liking the idea of a hammer stab now.
Yeah,
I would probably shout that at my enemies as I used it. Hammer stab!
Sometimes they do have points on them. It's just interesting. There's a weird naming convention in some of it sounds really quite dull. Some of the names, and then you get to magic and things are slightly different. So backgrounds, you pick a thing that gives you a bonus to a stat or +1 in a skill. It's quite nice. You can either pick like an easy option, like, oh, I just want to get playing, and it gives you some skills, or you can say, yeah, I want to care about it a bit more. I can get a roll on a couple of tables, see what I get instead, which is, a nice little thing. There's a bunch of backgrounds that you can pick from. There's quite a few of them.
Does love him some tables.
Oh, well, this book is it's OSR, so there's tables. There's random tables for everything.
Are they all D12 tables?
There are lots of D12 ones. I'm very happy about that. But there's D6, D8, D12, D10, D20, all kinds of tables. D100 tables, which is cool. And a lot of people think, oh, random monster charts are stupid. Why would you ever have wandering monsters? Sometimes it's really helpful to have tables as a point of reference or things you might encounter. Like one of the things I look at in a monster manual, for example, is like you're thinking, oh, you're going for a desert region. What monsters in this book come from a desert region? So I go to the desert random encounter table, and there's a list of the monsters that I could pull from, sensibly, really handy. which is
linking
handy.
Your monsters is really, really useful.
Yes, absolutely.
We were talking a little bit before we started about how I did a world build once where each of the different nations in the world was a separate climate. And one of the reasons I did that was so that it was easy to link specific monsters to specific nations. So if you wanted to be up against white dragons, you knew you had to go into the Frosty Mountain country because you weren't going to find them anywhere else.
So you were saying you had a cool, really morphing geomorphology where like a nation would take over an area and then the land would become more icy.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
I like that. That's cool. That's cool. Maybe we'll do some world building on that world at some point.
Cool.
So Mage. So everyone has hit dice 1d6. It only goes up to level 10. You've got an attack bonus thing, and then your focus picks, which are basically your something cool, your extra thing, your talent, your feat, whatever you want to call it. Bokai. It feels quite a sci-fi word for a fantasy game, but it does what it says on the tin. There are 3 classes, but there aren't 3 classes. There are 80 classes. It's interesting because you peel the onion slightly, and it gets into a world of detail. So there's the expert, the mage, and the warrior. So you got thieves, fighters, and magic users. If you've played Fantasy Age, which uses the same system as Expanse from Green Ronin, that has a similar thing where it's just 3 base classes. Then there's an additional one called the Adventurer, which is a multi-class of a combination of the other classes. And then if you play a mage, there are 10 different traditions. I think it's 10, something like that. Classes without number, says Bubble Reg. There are a whole bunch of traditions. And what you can do is say Elementalist and Necromancer. You can be a partial Elementalist and a partial Necromancer to make a Elementomancer. I don't know what it's called. But, it does give variety. But
the Necromentalist sounds like someone who controls the minds of the undead.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So partial mages create a lot more opportunities for variations of different types of wizards, but you've got warrior, expert, mage, partial expert, partial warrior, partial expert, partial mage. Adding the word partial into everything just makes it a bit clumsy to say, though. So they should just call out the expert warrior, the expert mage, and the mage warrior, and then that's your 3 multi-class.
I like that they call it expert rather than thief, because that was always something that was like, it made rogues kind of a one-dimensional character. There's constant fixation on the thief, and I know it goes back to the old Fafford and the Grey Mouser thing, where you had the big burly warrior and his sneaky thiefy sidekick.
Yeah,
but there was always so much
Conan.
more that you could do with rogues, and having
it opens up the opportunity for like investigators, policemen, all kinds of different things, and blending warrior and expert. If you pick different foci, then you can be a ranger, who's quite sneaky as well, and all that kind of stuff. So I quite like it. I quite like it. It just the mage bit suddenly gets quite like with all these traditions, and the fact that you can be partial, because there is the partial mage, partial warrior. They have to create a partial version of every tradition, and then when there's a partial version of every tradition, you can put two of those traditions together. So there's
similar sort of thing in Shadow of the Demon Lord. When you're playing in that, there are different magical traditions, and you can focus in a single tradition and have your powers all come from one. And you can focus in really tightly on that, or you can spread your spells out across a wide range of things. So I think when we played that a couple of months back, I had a character who started off with a decent spread of spells, but as they got more powerful, my spells got more and more narrow. So I ended up being a teleportation and time spell user, which was lots of fun. You can do a lot with those.
Yeah. That's when the GM is sweating in their pants. Oh, my wizard's got time powers. It's like,
What are you going to do? I'm going to teleport his organs out of his body.
Yeah.
Can you do that?
That still counts as part of his whole body as one thing. Yeah. So a lot of this as well has got that kind of leeway. So the spells don't have like range, duration. It's just a block of text that says, hey, when you cast this spell, some really bad shit happens to a guy that you're looking at, and you and the GM figure out if he's on fire. Or it's not quite that loose. And that has advantages and disadvantages. You got your foci. These are kind of like feats, special knacks or talents that your hero has developed. And these, they come at 2 levels. You get them, you can step them up, which is quite nice. Sharadel, powers to remove an organ. All right, I pick organ skin. Nice. And there's loads. There's quite a few of these foci that allow you to do various things. There's a sniper one. There's some of your standard things, which is cool. It allows people to make their kind of touchstones that people will be able to relate to. I think this bit is a bit like, this will help modern day D&D players kind of get into the character creation of this. And then final touches, blah, blah, blah. Get your equipment. Nice packages. Cool. Like it. People, the more I play games, the more it's like, no, there is a whole equipment list and everything at the back. That's great. I want to be able to finesse all that. But there's like 10 things that I think, a roguish wanderer should have. Great. Right, I'm going to write all that down. That's on my character sheet. I've got that. That's cool. I didn't forget my water skin, and everyone goes, ha, you forgot a water skin. Some good examples. Equipment, encumbrance, blah. Let's go through that. There's skill checks, combat, and the rules aren't extensive. As you can see, I just scrolled through the combat section. One cool thing in this is something called shock, to represent how dangerous combat is. Every weapon you have, melee weapon, has a shock score. And what this represents is, say someone has an armor class of 18, and you roll to hit them and you miss, but you get over your weapon's shock value, you still do damage to them. Because just being in combat with a warrior who's using a sword is a dangerous thing, and hit points aren't blood coming out of you always. Hit points, it is the abstracted
shock value if your sword has got like skulls and wavy bits and spikes on it. No. Suddenly a reason for evil swords.
Let's go back up. So if you have a look up here, hand axe, armor class 15, 1 point of damage. So if you roll against someone with armor class of 18 and you miss, but you roll over a 15, you still do 1 point of damage to that person because you've made them exert themselves to dodge out of the way. You got close enough to hurting them, and some of them are worse than others.
That's quite a nice idea.
Yeah.
So a big two-handed sword with like wavy, spiky bits on the blade and a big skull and the pommel.
I think that's right. Let me have a look. It may
decorated
actually be
with human bones.
May actually be if their armor class is if their armor class is below the armor class value on your shock, then you still do damage to them.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah, which is why, the pike has got armor class 18. So anyone who's not in full plate armor that you're engaging with a pike will take a bit of damage from you because they have to really, they've really got. Whereas the little fighting claws, that's armor class 13. People can dodge that, get out of the way, or it doesn't cut through as much stuff. So it kind of represents like armor penetration, exerting people, and also what it does is it means that combats end quicker.
I'm liking that fighting clause is this. That was a nice touch.
Yeah, sorry. I was trying to make sure trying to make sure I was in the shot. Right, let's roll through that. So falling and hazards, blah 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 blah, building and crafting.
You're now in combat with the Wolverine.
Just going to briefly touch on the magic stuff, just to show people what the magic stuff is, and then we'll go over to the world building because we want to get onto that. But I didn't want to not discuss the game itself because this is the first time we're showing Worlds Without Number on the channel.
But we don't want to run out of islands either, with all the people on Discord who are claiming islands left, right, and centre.
That's true.
That one. I want that one.
True.
I want that one.
Yeah, I mean, you can join in the conversation on our Discord and Bagsy an island. You can see the islands on the right there. Some of them are already taken. So mages. Cool imagery, simple stuff. Let's talk about the spells. Conjunction of the inexorable step.
Ooh.
Prudentially transient abnegation of life. Touch of elucidating intangibility. And this, I've been on the Worlds Without Number Discord. Really, really good fun. Lots of people on there chatting away about all the rules and stuff. Lots of people already getting into what's your best build and all that. It's like, that's not, if anything, that's not OSR. Just go and have an adventure and figure it out as you go. That's, don't line up your 10 levels of advance. That's like, anyway. Yeah, got to get an island. Bubble Ridge is going, the bag seeing was real? I've got to get an island. And like all the other stuff is quite generic, and like stab skill and warrior
stab
mage.
Inexorable elucidation of the forthright certitude.
Yeah, and this comes from like Vancian magic tradition, and all those kind of books and stories where the indecipherable secrets of magic are beyond the grasp of mere mortals. And you have invocation of the invincible citadel, And
I do like that, actually, because that's your wizard schools trying to make magic hard for people to understand.
Yeah. And I'm not sure whether it's too, not associated naming conventions clashing, or a really clever, like, wizards have to deal with complicated shit, and warriors have to deal with stab. It's like, I want to know where that came from, because it's quite interesting. I find
there's a demonic hole in space-time in front of you. What do? Warrior looks at his character sheet and goes, stab. Yeah. The inexorable imputation. The caster makes a single one-sentence statement as part of casting this spell, a process which is subtle enough to appear as no more than ordinary conversation. All who hear the caster speak within a 40-foot radius must make a mental saving throw or come to immediately believe the statement is true unless it seems physically impossible to them or it is emotionally intolerable to believe. The listeners must be able to understand the caster's language, and the caster may exempt up to 2 targets per caster level from this delusion when casting the spell so as to avoid beguiling their companions. The spell's effects linger for 1 hour per caster level, after which the believers will be no more persuaded of the fact
sense or their own common sense would allow. And there's no
That's a really long way of saying if the wizard shouts you're going home in a fucking ambulance, it's going to hurt.
Yeah. But it doesn't have area of effect, range, duration. It's all in that block of text that you have to kind of tease out, which is in itself an interesting design choice. You go to it and you're like, the obnubilation of the will, level 4. Yeah, let's have a look. Where's my important? I feel like there's some highlighting that needs to go on in these spells, but they're quite cool. I can imagine after a while you're like, the mantle of dissection. It's like, oh man, that's a bad one. It's. I suppose we're just used to things like Melf's Acid Arrow, but it's just.
Never liked the named spells. No. Could have just called it Acid Arrow. Didn't need a name on it.
Well, they had a character called Melf.
I know.
Rulings over rules, I guess. There you go. Absolutely. And this is where the OSR style and tone comes in. It's about a discussion at the table, figuring out what's usable when between you, not having everything spelled out. But that bit there is different. This has rules in that text. Some of them just being put into a little summary at the top might be useful for the player. Cast the touches a solid non-magical barrier when casting a spell. A 10-foot cube of the barrier then becomes, for 1 round per cast, just like those little bits up in a range and duration and area of effect would help the player. But I also like the idea of making your wizard character player have to work for it, because magic should be a bit involved and you should think about it. It's a double-edged sword, I suppose. Right. Elementalists, you can see all the healers. So cleric healers are mages. There's no cleric class. You can be a priest who's a warrior, priest who's an expert, priest who's a mage, which is quite cool. And then all kinds of other stuff. There's a setting in here which you can see they've used Incarnate for as well, which is quite cool. Made me feel less bad about using Incarnate for my own thing. And then some various other stuff. But what was the page number, Ben, that we were going for?
114, I believe, is where we start with world building.
Create your campaign. Yes, and we liked this image here, didn't we, of the cloaked, robed figures around the kind of world. Magic is a double-edged sword. Bad metaphors to mix. Yeah, maybe. Who knows? So creating your campaign. There's a very utilitarian kind of approach to world building as described by Kevin Crawford, which I like because it made me. It's going to challenge me. Because Ben, I can assume you're a bit like me, that you like to
oh god, yeah,
just like this and that, and I've got and you kind of end up going off into a thing where you've described this small tower that's sitting on a strange island in the middle of nowhere, far away. That.
Well, I'll start with geography, and then I'll see something that doesn't make sense and end up knee deep in mythology 5 minutes later. And that's why that particular land structure makes no sense.
Absolutely. And before anyone says any kind of comments and in the chat or later on YouTube or anything, this is a fantasy world. And
a wizard did it is a perfectly valid reason.
I'll show you why it is. Because I'm now showing a picture of the World Mountain. This is my setting, my fantasy setting, the World Mountain. It is a giant super mountain, the size of Earth. The mountain itself is bigger than Earth. It's like twice the size of Earth, and there are layers grown out of the mountain, built by ancient dwarves long ago, and Ondrum, who is the mountain, and also they are the kind of originator, the creator, the main power, they told the dwarves to go and build stuff, and to build land and build the world. And they created these layers, and what a and all the cakes are upside down. Yes, and what I was trying to do was inspired by kind of dwarves, Norse mythology. It's a bit like the world tree, Yggdrasil, and all that stuff. And by Planescape as well, AD&D Second Edition setting for
a bit of Planescape.
Bit of Planescape. I love a bit of Planescape, but I wanted to have something that was a bit more compact. And I just had this. I just drew one night a picture of a mountain with planes coming out of it.
You wanted dwarves to be the ancient race.
Yeah.
It was like,
dwarf
enough
love
of this elf business. We want dwarves to be the ancient race.
Absolutely. And by the way, this document I'm showing you, people can get for free on our Patreon. So you can go over to the Patreon or just Google Garblag Games World Mountain. I'll put the Patreon link on there. It's a free document. There's a Pathfinder 2 or D&D 5th edition, because we've played in this world before, and yeah. Bubble Red sounds like Ondrum was fed up with the dwarves, asking them like, "What should we do? Go build stuff." And there are multiple layers. You've got Zadumir down the bottom, which is kind of fire, plane, hell-like world. Around the base of the mountain, the dwarves built the Mechanolith, which is this fortress around the mountain, and they defend the mountain from invasion from dark creatures down in that fiery layer. So it's kind of like a bit like hell. They call it the Deep, Zadumir. Then the next layer up is the Underdark, Udril, and there it's dark all the time because the sun orbits Ondrum sort of level with the Glorim layer. So Glorim is always in a kind of dusk twilight kind of lighting. Arlorn is effectively the kind of standard world layer, like Forgotten Realms or Kryn, or and all those kinds of things. Udril is like your Underdark layer, and the idea is that forces are trying to conquer the mountain, enslave this god, this power itself, and come up and take over the well-lit layers. You've got the Sky Islands of Yaneth, which is kind of floating around at the top with kind of sky ships and all kinds of stuff going on there. Glorim is all overgrown or necromantic, so there's that kind of stuff going on. Hey, Onamichi, thank you for the bits. And then at the top you've got Harlig, which is like a kind of polar ice cap. And there are ice demons and white dragons and stuff like that trying to come down. You've got people at the top keeping bad things at the top. You've got bad things at the bottom and people trying to keep it out. World of Arlorn is kind of going along blissfully, some of it, without even knowing a lot of that stuff's going on. But you can see the worlds above you. You're aware of them. It's not like, Glorim is a myth. It's like, look, that thing up there, that's the world above.
That's Glorim. You can see it.
Yeah.
And that's an ocean. Why is there an ocean above us? Try not to think about it.
Absolutely. And part of Glorim is actually, there's an ocean in Glorim that's accessible from above and below. It's magic. And our show that we did, our first show streaming
it's where the
on Twitch.
Best god lives.
It's, yes, the Leviathan, the Dreamer. Well, Tears of the Dreamer was the name of the show, and we did a Pathfinder 2 version of this, and wanted to get into a bit more. And there's all kinds of stuff in here, but I have kind of got a map of some of the civilized lands of Arlorn, which is the central layer. And I was kind of interested in this kind of central... zoom in a bit. Get down. So we had...
My character was from Glorim, if I recall correctly.
Yes, you were.
Rubric. the
Yeah.
very messed up oracle elf of the Leviathan.
Yes, absolutely. And we had been adventuring in this region between Pargranin, Erebag, and Feniriath, in this kind of the Rimwood Wilds. And what I was kind of interested in doing and expanding on this map, because I made this map a couple of years ago and wanting to do a bit more. Bet people still deny Glorham exists. It's a NASA conspiracy. Yeah, that's fake. That's a big bit of cardboard up there. There's nothing up there really. There are actually Aarakocra tribes that live in the stalactites
and
above.
Gnomes, a whole
And
gnome
gnomes.
town, big gnome city.
Neckelvang, a big gnome city that's built into the stalactites up the top, and airships do go up and down. So there's transport between them. People move between them.
But given what we know about real world people, there are probably still people that think gnomes
Absolutely.
are actually aliens, and that Glorham is a conspiracy.
Absolutely. And I had these kind of islands here, which were always to represent a bit more. Like there are some islands, not just 6 islands, but there are some islands in the water between the World Mountain, which is this big mass over here, Ondrum, and this continent on west. Not west, sorry, Rimwood. That world, like Discworld kind. So that's kind of a whistle-stop tour of the World Mountain setting so far. And what I wanted to do was then take this and explore the world building advice and guidelines, because they're not really rules. You sort of dip in and out. There's nothing that says, it says at this level you should think about this, at this level you should think about this. And then there's loads of tools afterwards with loads of tables for random generating things. Or just tables to pick things from, because they're good examples of stuff, and that's why I thought we'd get into. And apologies, we've done an hour now and we haven't even started world building. But I thought it was good to talk through. Well,
you've got to get your basics down, haven't you?
Exactly. We've got to talk about worlds without number if we're going to just suddenly flick from the PDF to page 112 and be like, right, world building. People will be like, what's worlds without number about?
Roll a D100. There's a giant tree. What?
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so this is the area that I wanted to look at, and that was kind of prompted a bit by patrons on the Discord. I put up a bunch of ideas for a potential campaign because if I flick back, and you can see I've done a slightly more detailed version on the right-hand side of the screen, where I've just kind of fleshed it out with some islands, just to create something a bit more interesting, a region that you'd have to sail through, and the idea being that there's kind of maybe an old continent that's been destroyed, or we can figure that out as we go. So that can be part of, why are these islands here? Why are they in this place?
Maybe there was a big seabed in Glorham and the whole thing just fell off one day. These are big stalagmites that have remained stuck out of the water a little bit.
That's really that's really cool. That's really cool. So worlds without number world building. And the reason I've flipped back to this, the reason I asked the patrons to kind of vote on ideas for a campaign is because, KC, as they call him, is always saying you should, your world building should be in service of what you're doing with your players. It shouldn't be frivolous side world building of all the kind of crazy stuff that's going on the other side of the planet or whatever. It should be in service of your story or your adventure or your campaign, not in such a way that you're building 10 sessions ahead what's going to happen with the big bad villain, and the 10 events that happen in between. But what you're doing is you create what it calls a backdrop, which is just enough detail at the right levels for your players to exist in the world and know things about, there is a country on the other side of the world. I don't know what it looks like, but I know that China is there, and I know 4 things about China. That's enough for me. I'm never going to go there. That's enough for me to feel like that's a real place out there somewhere.
Not until season 2.
Exactly. And then if that happens later on, you then go, right, okay, let's go over there and
You go
start
over
to
there
do
and
that.
you build that bit, yeah.
Exactly. Now, there are some issues with that. It can lead to kind of siloed world building, where you're like, I've done this bit, but I'll do this bit. Oh, now I've got to back work how these two might interact, how this might interact if there's trade routes and all that kind of stuff. But that's just a bit more world building. It's a bit more fun. And we all have those moments where you go, oh, what if
And
those
you can do
guys...
discretionary chunking as well. So you can have like continent level where you know what all the countries are in a chunk.
Yep.
You don't necessarily know what they all do, but the country that you're starting in, you know all the countries around them and what they do, or at least their principal exports and whether they're aggressive or not.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So I asked the patrons and said, of these ideas, what would be interesting? And a few of them stood out, got some more votes. Exploring an old dungeon, a hold, and this was an idea I had of going to the World Mountain and going into some of the dwarven constructs that are under there, which have been attacked, and trying to explore those to find riches and those kinds of things. And one of the other ones was a sailing patrol vessel that was going around islands that had, maybe weren't in much communication for a while, and to go and see what was going on.
But if they had fallen from the world above, then you could have like the lost gnomish city of Mickelvon.
Well, this is the thing. So that's really cool. So that I hadn't thought of that, Ben, and that's a really.
Or what happens to Aarakocra that find themselves living underwater?
They turn into flying fish
to some kind of aquatic existence? Do their feathers move to scales? Do they mystically adapt to life underwater and become sort of finned creatures?
I like it.
And then you adapt the Aarakocra template for a kind of manta ray species.
Cool. Very cool. Very cool. I like it. So he says, plan your scope, which is the first bit with like, what's your campaign going to be about? So in this, the idea is that a ship is heading out from Erebag to go to the World Mountain to explore a fabled hold that's, long ago been sacked by the evil forces of Bractagar, which is one of the big bad nations that kind of hangs out on the southern side of the World Mountain.
Hobgoblins and
lots of hobgoblins, bugbears, some orcs, some and one thing I wanted to say was, not all hobgoblins are evil. The nation of Bractagar is a evil nation. There are hobgoblins elsewhere who hate being associated with that and all that kind of stuff. Orcs are quite common. Goblins. I was trying to go for D&D 5th edition got to a stage where, with like Xanathar's book of stuff and Volo's thing of stuff, that you had quite a few races, species. Yep. And I thought, oh, cool. Be cool to have all of these as playable options. So I think I wrote a little short story about why there are orc sailors and Gomar, which is this island at the bottom of this area with I've got a little name on there on the screen. It's very hard for you to see that. Apologies. So this, yeah, you can see my pointer as well. So this island down here is Gomar, and that is actually an island nation that had previously been under the control of Bractagar and has recently broken free. Bractagar was ruled by a fascist king called Bractagar. He named the nation after himself, and when he did that, the god of murder and betrayal, who he worshipped, didn't like it because he was being worshipped more on the Arlon realm than he was, so took away all his powers, and he died in hand-to-hand combat with a dwarven king. And after that, Bractagar didn't have the kind of breadth and control that it had, so this nation kind of got away, and kind of refugees and goblinoid people became more of a common thing, and they had escaped from tyranny and come into the world, and people were actually like, look, we want to hear from you because we need to know what this nation is doing, because they're trying to come and take over Arlon, coming from Udril below. So there's some bits in here that I've already got, but I haven't got a clue what's going on in these islands. So I thought it'd be quite fun. So plan your scope, aerobag across to the World Mountain, north, middle north of the World Mountain coastline, to find an ancient hold. And on the way through, as you can see, there'll be a whole series of islands that they can choose or pick to go past, or be really dull and try and just navigate all the way through clearly without touching any islands.
You're getting Odyssey'd on that quest.
And I thought it provided a good opportunity for like a nice long hex crawl, naval exploration kind of thing. I thought it'd be quite cool. Build your backdrop. So starting with the topmost global level of campaign world, you make decisions. So as you can tell, we've already got some structure there. So we've got the World Mountain, we've got the layers, we've got Arlon, which is where we're talking about. We've got the one above and below, kind of interacting with it a bit. Then what we want to do is start to flesh out this space. So let's planning your work. Yeah, planning your work's great fun. There's a couple of good questions here, and again, it shows you Kevin Crawford's mindset. So, am I having two big things to ask yourself? Am I having fun building this? If yes, keep going. If not, don't do it. Okay. However, if not, you need to ask yourself a second question: am I going to need this for the next play session? So those are the two overriding, is this useful? Am I going to need this next session? Yes. Okay, I'll keep doing it. If the answer to that is no, then put it down. It says put it down. And that's cool. I find that that's very much how I get to, once a game is started. Before a game begins, I'll do this, but I'll do it like, I'll try and figure out lots and all kinds of things.
Yeah, me too. I'm very much a do all the things kind of person.
Yeah. It says here, it is painfully easy for a GM to exhaust their powers. Let me see.
Not my powers.
Yeah. It's painfully easy for a GM to exhaust their powers on minutiae or peripheral details that aren't fun to make and don't get any useful playtime. All of us are limited mortal creatures with finite amounts of time, energy, and focus, or foci. We can't afford to spend it on trifles. Interesting. When there is more important and more satisfying work to be done. Instead, focus on what you need and what you enjoy. I mean, he does say in here as well, look, if you like world building, cool, then this will really help you, and there's loads of stuff in here that you can use, so go for it. He's not completely, don't touch my book if you're preparing ahead of time, which is good. Right, building your backdrop, and this is where I probably start writing some things down. So I'd made a few notes already just to remind myself of things like the levels at which you build something, and then throughout that there are my screen keeps so you have the world, the regional, and the kingdom level. So you go, right, here's my world, this is the region I want to look at. And now I build some stuff for the region, look at the geography, look at what's going on, what are the main nations. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to pick one and I'm going to go and do some detailed stuff on there because that's the first place they're going to go, potentially. This is the main area for the first part of, the adventure, the campaign. So
being lower leveled as well, it's likely to be more civilized, less wild, more accessible. There's going to be trade routes. There's going to be availability of stuff.
Yep. And then at each of those levels, there are various tools you can use to like drop things in, and they're kind of dotted through the chapter. You have construction tools around geography, nation, society, government, history, and religion. You then have some bits around placing ruins and points of interest. Those, the dungeon in the jungle, a pyramid, all these kinds of things that draw adventurers, into the wilds or on their quests. Oh, hello, Ben.
Kind of de-blur if I'm trying different techniques.
That's cool.
One where I don't have that big spot shine. There we go. We'll just stick with that. No spot visible now.
No. Frustrating. And then you can throw in communities of different sizes and courts, which are kind of organizations. So not necessarily like a legal court, although it could be a legal court. It's like a noble's court or a mercantile enterprise, or the Theoden's family, that kind of thing. The people who look after an area or are influential in an area. And then there's bits about ruins and wilderness. Right. I could actually do with a quick break, he says, just as we...
Terrible timing. Just as Free League are about to come and raid us.
Oh, okay, right. I'll wait then. Raid incoming. Here we go. So,
in a bottle.
Hey! We are world building with worlds without number. Not here yet. Okay.
No, they're not here yet.
Okay, damn. Hang on. Wait. No. So
they're just wrapping up over on the Free League channel.
There are some high-level questions that you ask yourself. What's the name of this world for people in your campaign scope? Other people might have different names for it, but you need some kind of label to stick on your creation. Well, this area is called Arlorn. It's the realm. Are natural physical laws mostly the same as in our world? Well, I think we've kind of described, we've got the world mountain structure.
Yes, so the difference is you've got an ocean above you.
Yep.
The PCs will likely know about it. Yes, I would hope so.
PCs do know about it. Yep. One other thing to point out is the sun orbits the disk. So the world mountain itself creates night when the sun is on the other side of it. That's just one.
Night is actually just a shadow of the world mountain.
Yes, and it's so deep that it.
But there's a good name for an adventure right there: Shadow of the World Mountain.
I'm writing it down. Nighttime. It's bedtime. I should put it's bedtime. Oh man. Okay. Hello. Big O on the hello. Hey Millie. How you doing? Raid?
No audience. Just Millie. Hi Millie. Thanks for coming.
So natural physical laws, cool. Are there any spirit worlds, alternate dimensions, novel planes of existence, or other cosmological locales generally associated with the world? So I think we've kind of covered that with the world mountain structure. We've got up to the top.
Oh, I see. Of course.
What?
Garblag number 4. Gainfully employed now, isn't he?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So no raid. Never mind.
But we have Millie, which takes us to 3 Garblags, which is Quoracy. And Millie's picked her island already.
She has the one that looks like something fell on it. So we've got our planes. So we've got the other layers. I'll do it like that because then pretty much all the names are on.
Spirit worlds. Do you have a spirit world?
I don't. I have that
The
kind of.
contiguous planes, the astral, the ethereal.
So the ether beyond is kind of all around the outside.
And is that astral or ethereal or both?
It's a bit of both. Yeah. So we'll put that. We'll put that ether beyond. Trifecta of Garblags. Yeah.
Well, it might be worth considering separating your astral and ethereal, because they have very different properties. Your ethereal,
they do in Dungeons and Dragons, don't they?
I suppose you could bundle them, yeah.
Yeah. Ether Beyond is less spirity. I'd seen like spirit stuff above Arlorn and other stuff below. So like Glorim.
Your spirit worlds are also other physical planes.
Yeah. So like Glorim is Verdant's life, maybe spirits, necromancy, all those things together. So will-o'-the-wisps and and spirits of the woods and all that kind of stuff. I'd thought about trying to represent a lot of the D&D planes in the different layers of the world, so that they could kind of creep in and out. Plane of we don't. I'm afraid. Oh God, let's not get into that argument. Cool. Okay, so we can come back to that. And to be honest, Ben, does that matter to my players right now?
Am I going to use players right now? No, it doesn't.
I'm going to use that in the next session. So I'll put. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put astral plane.
But that kind of depends on your players. If you've got someone who meditates or dreams, does that?
Well, if you think about our last show, we did have kind of like a dream layer from the Leviathan. So the dreamer is there chucking out his dreams from Glorim, and that is kind of the astral element. But entwined in Glorim.
So I suppose what you could have then is you've got almost like currents in astral and ethereal, like tides running against each other. Currents of, so you can cross over the astral and the ethereal at these crossing points, but there's going to be shear and tides and
different influences and a kind of clash on the edge of some of the other planes. Okay. Cool. Okay. I'm just making rough notes at the moment, and what I'll do is I'll start to flesh it out, and when we do more on the map, then I'll add more to the incarnate map to like make that more detailed, as we go. Are there any grand global scale empires or groups that impinge on the campaign scope? There is Braktagar. Evil Empire coming up from Udril to claim Arlorn. It's like I wanted a big conflict in the backdrop of the world, so that there's something.
You need to have a good war going on.
Absolutely, and to be honest, if this were to go out to other people, it would give them something that's relatable and easy to like tap into. There'll be some esoteric stuff. The Dreamer's there. There's going to be weird stuff going on with Zon, which is the undead god, and the Dreamer, and all that kind of clash. But there has to be some like.
Well, if you think even about something like Star Wars was originally purported, the Star Wars were the backdrop to the story in the original version. There was this whole stuff going on against the backdrop of the Star Wars.
Okay. That's cool.
So having a war in the background, it gives you a lot of avenues for things. So people can come and go as they get called up, or as family members are lost to war. But you've also got news from the front coming back, which can come back and tell you things about the world that can provide plot hooks and links for future adventures.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just it's also quite handy to have a reliable bad guy, for Evil Gilmore's put an evil empire sounds great. Well, you would say that Evil Gilmore, wouldn't you? Okay. Are there any vast global events that have happened recently? I think this collapse of Glorim would be vast.
Yeah, but that'd be a history thing, because if those are islands
Oh
and they're
yeah,
going to have
sorry, this
people
would be
living on them.
recently, wouldn't it? Be
Recently,
recent.
you've
Yeah,
got the
recently.
shenanigans with the Leviathan. I mean, if you want to make that canon,
Yeah, yeah.
historically, you've got
Tis
the Dreamer.
Yep. So this is the decay that was being implanted in the Leviathan in the ocean above. Yeah, we'll do in a minute, Bubble Reg. In the ocean above, that was kind of rotting it, and parts of its body were literally falling from the sky and crashing into the ground below. So that's something that could feature in this as well. And that is some sort of hidden conflict between the Dreamer in caps and Jean, who is the undead god. The next line is, it can be tempting to add gods and religious faith at this level of backdrop detail, but it's generally better to save that work for the regional level or even the kingdom level. It's like, well, one of the things I actually wanted to do in the World Mountain, because there's people know about these other layers and lots of movement between them. They know a certain god resides on a certain layer.
Yeah, the gods are a lot more physical.
But we'll worship them. You know, the god of war is there. The god of nature is on Glorim, and Glorim's amazing, and that's where the god of nature should live. But I'm down here, a druid doing my work down here, but I will pray to the god, you know, on Glorim to
you could literally see
powers.
your gods playing. So, like,
yeah. Okay, so once you've answered these general questions about your world, you're ready to step down to the next level of backdrop creation, which is the region. And at that point there, I'm going to take a short nature break. Apologies, everyone. But we've got a few details down, and we are moving on to the region level next. So we'll be back in 5-10 minutes. I won't put the music on again because it will destroy my my computer. I'm just going to put the holding screen up, and we're going to go quiet for 5-10 minutes while we pop to the loo and get a drink. What was it? Human admin, I think Millie puts it, isn't it? Which is cool. So see you very soon. Hello, we are back with Worlds Without Number. Doing a bit of world building. In the first half, we talked about Worlds Without Number, the role-playing game, probably for a little bit longer than we thought we would. And
Pete and Ben in Talking Too Long, shocker.
Absolutely. And then we started talking about the World Mountain and doing some world building, and we've got our region. Yep, I think that counts as a region for the purposes of this. And again,
region is the islands, isn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely. So I've got my little region thingy here, and we're going to start doing some world building. So it says name the region.
Name the region. The island.
Start there, shall we?
No, we can do better than that. It's an archipelago for a start.
Oh, my favourite choice on Civilization 6.
So, what's the name of this archipelago?
Something to do with falling from the sky, surely.
So you've got Fallen Archipelago, if you're being really obvious.
Yeah, we could start there, couldn't it?
We could.
I watched an interesting video on YouTube talking about naming conventions, and I took a few notes, and they come from place, historical event, or something about the people. They often tell you about who is naming something. So are we calling are we calling it based on what the people of Erubag call it? Because the campaign will begin in Erubag. I think it's multiple archipelagos, by the way, because it's quite an area. So there's probably like this bit here and Dropalago. I like it. The Fallen Archipelago. Why don't look? I think what we could do is we should go through and start to do stuff, and I think names will change, and we'll come up with ideas, and things will generate history and events, and we'll go, aha, the archipelago. Archfort. This is why it's good to have a chat window open while you're doing this, because we get some good suggestions from the people. Choose about 6 major geographical features. Six major geo features. It'd help if I could. That's the booze. Let's have a look. The section on page 120.
Oh, there's a D20 roll chart.
Oh, can give suggestions. But for this step, you want to pick out the mountain ranges, great forests, huge rivers, steppe plateaus, volcanic hellgates, blasted Aratu wastelands, and other major features for the region. You don't need to place them.
The trouble here you've got is that it's islands, though.
Well, yes. But what we could do is we could roll 6 features, and then we could place them on islands on the map.
Let me pull up a rolly thing.
Or should we get some of our viewers to roll as well?
Do we trust those people?
That's a good question. Shame there's not like a dice roller in the chat.
Yeah.
That would be quite cool. Could roll too far there. Yeah, there we go. Okay, Ben, you're going to be rolling, and we're going to page 120.
But if people don't like what I roll, they can always throw a couple of groats at us for a reroll.
That is true. Right, let's go to page 120, which is the geography section. Geography construction. And this is where I said what it has is it talks about the 3 layers: world, region, kingdom. Some of the things you should do, some of the questions you should answer. And then beyond that, you have these construction tools. So there's geography, nation, blah, 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 blah.
You're not going to believe this, but guess what I've rolled first?
Island.
Yep.
Well, you can do a re-roll on that one. There's a single significant island off the coast or an archipelago of some note. They're is indeed.
So goodbye, island. What else can we have instead? We can have an 11, a megaplex.
Whoa.
The ruins of a single huge ancient structure that stretches for endless miles. There you go. There's your city right up in the top end.
Okay.
Because you wanted one of those, didn't you?
We did. So that should be on the World Mountain continent on the far right. Yeah?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You can see my cursor.
Next up, a light forest.
Sorry, what was that last one called? Megaplex.
A megaplex, yeah.
Okay, megaplex. A light forest.
Who was the name of one of the Transformers, I believe.
Interspersed with other terrain.
So we've got a light forest next.
Yep. Oh, I like that. People are saying maybe under the ocean.
Under the sea.
Spreading between islands.
Yep.
Ooh.
I'm seeing a hubris of an ancient race
building
a city
in Glorim.
Yeah, on the seafloor in Glorim, or between the stalagmites hanging off of Glorim.
Yes.
And the weight there ended up pulling the whole thing.
Here we go. Spreading between islands. So we'll have these as like northeastern selection of islands.
Yeah.
Let me go up to here. Can I draw? Can. Great. Just a What about this over here? Because how big are these islands? Each hexagon is 6 miles across. So it's about 480 miles or 400 odd miles between the Arubag and the World Mountain. I think it's about 80 hours worth of sea travel with a good wind and fair weather. So it's not hugely far.
Narrator, there will not be fair weather. Okay,
like
we've got a blasted lands.
Oh, sounds good.
Yeah, some kind of magical catastrophe. It says radioactive or scorched over by ancient war. So maybe the power generating bit for the city exploded, overloaded, some kind of magical.
Yeah, maybe we should not couple them up too quickly.
Yeah. But yeah, we've got a blasted land, some kind of mystical catastrophe.
Okay, sounds good. Maybe that's that island with the
that big
with
chunk.
the hole.
Millilandia.
Millandia. Maybe that's Millandia. Let's put that in there. Right, next one.
Scrub Desert.
These often appear on the leeward side of mountain ranges. Borders will often be grasslands or savanna. These then can influence the areas around them. Number 5.
Number 5, we've got a rainforest.
Okay. Cool.
And they could be pernicious little buggers, so that will be growing in and around some parts of the ancient ruins potentially.
Probably spreading over.
You have a couple of islands that are rainforested.
Yeah, that sounds. I think we'll have kind of clumps like these areas are blasted, these are rainforest. Here's a megaplex between some of the islands.
Yeah.
Here's light forest in the middle, kind of feel. Okay, cool. And the last one.
The last one is a bit naff. It's Rocky Hills.
Maybe. Oh, someone gave me a reroll earlier on. Why don't we re-roll that? Or maybe we could use a re-roll to pick something. Why don't we get our viewers have a look at this list?
Oh, come on. Number 19 is Volcano. We've got to have a volcano.
What other options are there?
Weathered mountains, volcano, swamp, scrub desert, sand desert, rolling hills, rocky hills, rainforest, pit, megaplex, light forest, jungle, jagged mountains, islands, grasslands, dense forest, canyons, blasted lands, Aratu wasteland, and ancient farmland.
Should we go volcano? Volcano.
I'll
put an exclamation mark after it. Right. What I might be able to do, actually, is... Because I won't be able to open Incarnate at the same time as doing this. My computer just won't be able to handle that. But...
Ellie just said, actually, farmland would give someone with trade farmer an advantage.
Oh, brilliant. Pit. Volcano. Yeah, we've got volcanoes going.
It's got to be a volcano.
Okay, it's a volcano.
You can't have a string of islands without a volcano.
Okay, now, what I'm going to try and do...
It's like having a plate of chips with no mayonnaise.
Sorry?
Just getting a little bit continental there. Showing off how sophisticated and cultured I am.
Don't you get all continental with me. Chips. Chop on them. Anyway.
Right, so we've got ourselves a couple of different bits of stuff.
Hang on, let me just get. I've opened up a scalable vector graphics editor free program called
6 nations or groups of importance.
Well, we've got Gomar.
Yep, so there's one. I think one of the groups of importance should be like a pirate armada of no fixed abode.
Right, so there's our map, and now I might be able to do stuff like draw squiggly things on it and write stuff. Say, oh, that's where our megastructure is.
6 nations or groups of importance. A few more or less is fine, but don't try to pack a score of major players into the same region.
And
name and a few sentences of description each. Oh, and you can use the section on page 124 for inspiration.
Oh,
come on, random rolling table.
Let's roll down to page 124. Nation construction. So this is where you can talk about borders, population, urbanization, but we have.
And then on 126, there's some nation themes. But maybe we should come back to that in a minute.
Yeah.
So we need our
Raiders
6.
are taking refuge. Okay, 6 major. So the first one is going to be Gomar.
First one is, yeah.
And we've got Erebag.
Gomar. Do we need Erebag? Is Erebag counting towards our 6? I think this is 6 for the islands.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That's the past, isn't it?
So we've got
pirates.
Gomar, we got pirates.
Yep.
I think we should have some kind of regressed tribal community. Potentially.
That sounds like a spell. I cast regressed tribal community.
Living in the jungle.
Oh yeah, Aarakocra. Here we go. This is
Aarakocra
Aarakocra jungle priests.
Yes.
They're dreaming there's an apocalyptic event they're waiting for, or something like that. I don't know. We're going to start to get like overruling random tables. Okay, 4.
What else do we need?
Any suggestions from chat? Here we go.
Well, we could do with something really mundane.
If the megastructure has tunnels connecting islands, how about a nation that holds an unexpected hegemony by controlling tunnel access?
Doesn't have to be a nation. Could be an extra-governmental, extra-national organization.
Like the UN?
No, I'm thinking more like the tunnelers.
Yeah, no, I was going to write the tunnelers, actually.
Who have set up bases around some of these access points and are basically charging people to get into them. So they're more dodgy than you might think. They come across like this forthright organization protecting the access to this ancient treasure, but they're actually just in it to strong-arm cash.
We could do some rolling for some of these flavoury bits, can't we? So well, let's say we got Gomar, pirates, the tunnel gang. Yes, Egil. Regress tribal community, the tunnelers. 2 more. It says a few. We could have.
I think we need to have
island nation. We could have like something that's a bit more. Sorry to be boring, but like settlers or the
settlers. You've got settlers on the one hand, and then you've got conflict with native islanders.
But what are native islanders? If this all fell from above, these are like sea elves. Are these like aquatic elves that now dwell in is there an aquatic elven nation that aren't in the megastructure?
Never mind the stuff on the surface. What about under the water? One of those societies
Tritons
can be in and around the water. So I think Tritons is...
Let's have an underwater Tritons question mark.
We're a bit pissed off with all these people like driving their ships around everywhere, scaring the fish.
Yeah. Instead of the Spacing Guild, the Tunnel Guilders. Ho ho ho!
Ooh,
I love it. Oh, let's write that down. Tunnel Guilders. Guiders? Guilders. Yeah, it's like maybe there's this megaplex is extensive. Okay, hang on. I'm going to go to the map briefly. Sorry, Ben, you might have to look on the stream. I'm unable to share it with you without screwing up all my overlay.
That's okay. I can't actually see anything on the stream though because it's
it'll be there it'll be there in a second.
It'll be there. Yeah,
it'll be there. So
I think we still need to have settlers moving out from that first place. No,
Gomar. Gomar going
settlers
north
from
into
Gomar
the islands.
Moving north into the islands now that they've got their freedom.
Yeah,
people already living in the Northern Islands who are like, yeah, but we were here first.
Yeah.
So you got this sort of colonialism versus Aboriginal angle as well,
and maybe not as aggressive colonialism, but kind of accidental. Like we've just been ravaged and we've escaped and we're trying to find land and stuff, and they're like, no, sod off, we live here.
Settlers, when the settlers is the sort of, don't mind us, we're totally harmless.
Yeah.
And some of the islanders will be more reactionary than others. So you might have some islanders that are welcoming settlers with open arms, some that are integrating with them, and then some that are rabidly xenophobic and are just executing them on the beaches before they can even set foot on the land because the land itself is sacred or what have you. That then ties in with our Aarakocra thing potentially.
Okay. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna draw some coloured. Have you got a flag? And I'll back it up with this gun. I'm going to draw some ovals or kind of circles around islands on the map, and I'm just giving a bit of chat time so Ben can catch up on the Twitch because of the delay. So hopefully people can see the map.
Yep, I've got the map right there.
You got the map.
It is.
Right.
Hello map.
Hello map. Okay, so I thought we would have. Oh, hello. Let's object.
Now, I think the northernmost islands are not where you want your megaplex thing because they're too far apart. But those ones with the chain of little islands running between them, those would be a good place to have your megaplex. So let's use cardinal directions. So,
well, I thought this would be our blasted region, yeah?
Yeah.
See that?
Yeah.
Cool.
Melandia.
And where we want the megaplex up.
So the megaplex would be north of there. On those, you see the two large islands connected by the string of smaller islands. And the third island below them. So on the western side of the map.
Yep. I'm just positioning talking about a megaplex here.
Yep.
That's quite close to Erebag, though. That's my only thought.
Right. Oh, if you don't want it close to Erebag, then...
Well, no. I don't know if that really matters.
Well, no, equally, you could throw a couple more islands on. I was going to say that would be the good place. Maybe move that circle slightly to the east and then shrink it down on the side so it's more of an oblong like that. Yeah,
I like the idea that little chain of islands through the middle there is all connected.
Remnants of tunnels. Yeah, that's
remnants of tunnels and things. Maybe it's like you said. Maybe it's an ancient gnomish city, which was built into the vast structure of all these stalactites and things.
Yeah,
and when it collapsed, there's like old and broken ways through it.
Yeah. And then that island that it's touching on the
east.
If you could dent it in on the southeast so that island isn't included, potentially.
Whoops. Yep. Hang on. So like that. Yeah.
Give it a sec to catch up. Banana says non-anomaly. Yes.
Okay. Right. So we've got where's our volcano?
The volcano needs to be that's that standalone island. I keep trying to click on the map. I'm so sorry. That standalone island in the northeast.
The very little tiny one?
No, not the very little tiny one, because that's the haunted crazy witch island.
Oh yeah. There's just some butchered sea lions on that island,
just
aren't there?
Butchered sea lions and no porgs whatsoever. The one southwest of that.
Yep. Gotcha.
There's one that looks like the edges of a volcano, potentially. Yep. Which could be, rather than just being a bog standard volcano, is actually an upswelling from the level below, trying to come through into Arlorn.
Yeah. So it's an Udril volcano, effectively.
An Udril volcano, yeah. So it's almost like a hollow volcano. It's burst its way through and provides an access port for things from below.
Indeed. Perfect, because it's good to have that. The above and below coming into Arlorn. That's kind of like one of the things for the themes of the world,
isn't it?
Yep. So I'm just changing the font of. I don't like that.
Don't go to Crazy Witch Island. You'd be mad not to go to Crazy Witch Island. I heard there's piles of treasure.
Okay, so that's blasted.
Beautiful maidens everywhere.
Beautiful maidens everywhere. This is Megaplex. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. This is Volcano Islands. Okay, Udril Volcano.
Yeah. Oh, come on, Twitch. We believe in you.
Going on.
Twitch is being twitchy.
Is it?
Yeah. Looks like it might have frozen.
Okay, refresh. Dropped a couple of frames, but it should be okay. Because I'm doing lots on my computer. I like it.
I don't know. Can people hear us?
I think so. Seems to be okay.
Okay, well, I think that area in the north is where you want your Aarakocra.
Up the top.
Up the top there, yeah.
Well, we're doing geography at the moment, aren't we? We've got Megaplex. We need to put a light forest, the scrub desert, and rainforest.
Well, the rainforest goes at the top then.
Kind of over a few islands, I think.
Yeah.
Getting that over there. So what I'll do is I'll be able to incarnate. I'll be able to juice up the map a bit.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Is there a problem?
It was, your computer trying to run too many things at once.
Yeah, it's my computer. It's crap. Okay. So we've got rainforest at the top. We need to do light. So maybe light forest is the Gomar Islands.
Well, I think Gomar, you can put whatever you want on there. I think you want to focus on the islands that are north of there.
Okay.
So I would say...
should we do the desert in the bottom?
Desert in the middle and the light forest at the bottom.
Okay.
Because if there's a desert on the first islands there...
Well, I'm just thinking...
Then the people from Gomar are going to get there and go, well, that was a bad idea. Turn around and go home again. Whereas if they can get through the islands without having to be confronted by desert, then it's still worth their while to go there.
Okay. So, light forest in the bottom and desert.
Light forest in the bottom and then desert in the middle. So the desert will be sort of next to, between the Megaplex and the volcano.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the light forest to be in those
Maybe the
3 or 4
rainforest comes
islands
down a little
there.
bit further then. So it's not all barren deserts, you know, in the top. Shape. Yeah, apologies, viewers, if my computer is struggling with my Inkscape stuff.
Now, Leon has bagsied an island there as well. Leon wants the splatty one northwest of Milandia.
Oh, okay. Yep.
But very specifically stated that there should be no snakes there, only fluffy animals. So I'm thinking sort of primeval saber-toothed tigers.
No, I've called it Snake Island. Desert, or was it something else? Was it just desert?
It was just a desert, yeah.
Scrub desert.
No, it wasn't scrub desert. It was... No, it was scrub desert. You're right.
I had Discord open. Look at that.
Rookie mistake.
Yeah, I know.
Non-anomaly thinks that there should be unicorns on Fluffy Animal Island.
There should be... Sorry?
Unicorns on Fluffy Animal Island. But I quite like the idea of there being like primeval proto-unicorns, like saber-tooth unicorns.
I mean, narwhals?
No, like you have saber-toothed tigers hunting unicorn flocks or herds of unicorns. So there you go. Snake Island has no snakes on it, and that's why it's called Snake Island.
Exactly. Yeah.
But what it does have is herds of wild unicorns and saber-toothed tigers that hunt them.
And hordes of starving mongooses. Mongeese,
yeah.
Mongeesers. So what's this island next to Erebag? The first island they come across. Is that light forest as well?
Oh, hang on. Something's just... So leaving Erebag, heading towards the Megaplex, you mean?
Yeah.
That little micro archipelago.
I'm thinking there. Light forest should be Snake Island and that area as well. Just because it's like the outer kind of first islands anyone comes to are kind of light forest. And
yes, I agree. Light forest is a good idea, and I also think for some reason that those islands west of the Megaplex, there should be at least one monastery there.
You and your monasteries. Not Snake Island, the other one.
Not Snake Island, the other one, yeah.
Well, we can get into temple design in a bit. Right, okay, cool. So I think that's cool. That's really...
No snakes, just you and two.
There's no snakes on the island, but it's surrounded by sea snakes.
Yep.
So that's cool. I think that describes our geography nicely, gives us some cool things to work with, and now we can start to place some nations in and amongst those. You know, we know where the tunnelers are going to be, for example.
Yeah.
And where the Aarakocra, the flightless Aarakocra tribes, or whatever we come up with. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so that's good.
Because they're para-Aarakocra, they could be Paracocra.
Oh dear. Oh dear. What's happening? Right, okay. So...
And then you can make Gomar whatever you want.
Yeah, that's going to be...
fairly heavily mined and farmed.
Yeah, mined and farmed. That's a settled, country.
There's that one island still there to the east of Gomar.
Yeah.
Just sat on its
Maybe that's volcanoes as well. Because they're nearer the World Mountain.
Could be. I
Or
think that's got scope for something. They
maybe
still
you
off
should
class.
roll.
Dinosaurs. Bloody dinosaurs, mate.
Why don't you roll?
All right. Let's roll.
No, that's just a feature, isn't it? Yeah, let's roll for a feature.
It's a volcano.
Oh.
Rolled another volcano.
Okay. Okay. There we go.
So yeah, you're right. There are 2 volcanoes.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of cool. There's like kind of active things as they get. The last step to the World Mountain is a dangerous one. You know, there's not much harbour there. You know, it's going to be tricky going. You're going to have to prepare back on the previous islands to make your run to the World Mountain with supplies and all that kind of stuff. Maybe there's fire worshipping crazy people as well. Who knows? We'll find out. Okay, cool. So,
Dinosaurs can live on volcanoes. They are naturally mutually occurring.
Okay, so we were. Let's have a look. Nation construction. Let's go up. Geography.
Kingdom map. One roll terrain features.
Well, hang on. We create 6 nations or groups of importance. We've done that.
Yeah.
Identify regionally significant gods.
You've got your gods pretty much mapped out, haven't you?
I have, yeah. So, you know, there's.
But do you need any like small gods? Like, do the Aarakocra have a god? Do the pirates have a god? Or do they give service to existing gods?
I think.
Could there be like
come back to that?
A big spirit that the Aarakocra give their worship to that has the potential to become a god?
Yeah, maybe something came down from Glorim with them. That's, you know, big and spirity.
It's in an egg. It's a big egg. It's a massive egg, and the Aarakocra
they take it in turns to sit on it.
No, it's too big for sitting on. No, the egg.
No, they've built like a big structure around it so that the top priest can
sit
perch on top of the egg and just be like, arr. Let's have a look. Their hang glider converts into a wind surfboard. What? Hello. Can Gomar have a tall hill and messengers hang glide to the nearby islands? Absolutely. Gomar. Let me make a note.
Works in Guild Wars 2. I don't see why it shouldn't
messengers. Can they hang glide 6 miles?
With thermals, arguably.
Yeah. And there's nearby volcanic activity, so maybe there's some strong thermals in the area. Okay, so
that's a good idea, Sharadel. Pirates paying tribute to the underwater folk.
Oh yeah. Okay, let me write this down.
It's a whole new meaning to the walk the plank threat, doesn't it?
Yes.
We're not just pushing you overboard to let you drown. We're pushing you overboard to placate the sea dwellers.
Cool. I like that.
And that's why the pirates have less trouble sailing around than other people do.
What about the tunnelers? Is there something that you have to watch out for in the tunnels?
Definitely.
Is there? Because I do have like a shadowy god from Udril, but again, or maybe we can come back as we start to flesh some of these bits out.
I'm thinking displacer beast type threat in the tunnels.
Maybe that's more of a, so not necessarily a god, but more of a monster level threat.
I'm thinking something like displacer beasts or phase spiders, something that is there and not there, and you know, you make camp and there's nothing
something
there, and then suddenly
you're
surrounded, but you're surrounded by one thing.
Omelette as lesson. Cracking an egg. That's it. That's the rival faction on Amici. There are those who sit on the egg, and there are those who worship omelette, and they believe they need to storm the egg and smash
Destroy the egg. Extract the egg goo.
Yeah.
Make an omelette fit for a god.
Make a sketch map of the region, which we've just done.
Tick.
Assign 2 important historical events to each group or nation. Okay, right. So I'm going to go back to my list of groups and nations and assign.
Well, you've got one important event that applies to everybody, which is the fall.
Yeah, do we want to... I mean, that doesn't matter to the Gomar settlers, for example, does it?
No, that's true.
But it does to the Tritons. Okay, so Glorium fall.
I suppose that's a historical event that applies to everybody. So you're looking at separate historical events to each of the groups.
Yes. Well, I think that's quite key to the Tritons, because they wouldn't be on Arlorn without that event having happened.
Yeah.
So although it is quite a generic one, I think we can call that one out specifically for the underwater Triton faction to say you wouldn't be here without that. All the others would, you know.
Yeah.
I still like the idea of the gnomes did something that they shouldn't have done.
Maybe they were trying to use the egg god thing as a power source.
I'm going to write this down. Egg god thing. Egg god. Like a type. I have a desire for the island natives to be gnomes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've made a good start on exploring our little world, our little area of Arlorn. And thank you, Ben, for your help and brilliant ideas.
And we've got historical events and relationships to work on next week.
Yep, absolutely. So we had a slight technical hiccup tonight, unfortunately, but we will be back next week with another session of world building, and we'll be getting straight into the world building as we've now covered off the role-playing game itself. So we will see you next week. Please don't forget to go check out all our social media. All our links are below in the About in Twitch and in the video description if you're watching on YouTube. If you are watching on YouTube, come and join us on Twitch. And if you're watching on Twitch, don't forget to join us on YouTube. Come and join us on our Discord. We'll be talking about this, and I will be exploring, adding details to the map and putting it into the Discord so people can see that and we can talk about it as we go.